Hello viewers, Super GT here. Now if you watched any of my recent live streams, you'll know that I had a very bad time here at Dragon Trail Gardens. It seemed like no matter what I did, I would always end up spinning around, facing the wrong way, and just bottling the entire race. So I've come back to the scene of the crime, the scene of so much devastation and misery, and tried to correct it. Can I actually have a good race around here? We're going to find out. I've started off in the Viper. Now, so this chicane here, this is where things really messed up for me. You see these big red curbs, and that is where things really kicked off. So we've got a couple of Evos here, a couple of Vipers. The leaders just run away with it after all this fighting between this little pack here. So Rima here just ahead in the Viper, into the hairpin, a little too late on the brakes, and he's just gonna, well, go into the right into the back of this Evo, and I'm actually surprised the Evo didn't end up in the Shadow Realm. He is in the barrier though. He's just going to rejoin. I'm going to go up into third, fifth to third. So okay, something so far. Although the problem with bottling a race is, you know, sometimes it looks as though you're going fine, and then you just make one silly mistake, and that's all it takes to bottle a race. You can be sitting in first place, you can be miles ahead, and then you make one silly mistake, you're in the ball, facing the wrong way, you get a 10-second penalty, and well, that's it, game over. So the idea here, really, have a good race, salvage something, and it really did not go well on that live stream I did very recently. It just seemed like everything I did was bad, eventually anyway. So let's see if we can salvage maybe a second place here. It looks like the leader is just gone. He's absolutely bolted. He's like 4 seconds ahead already, and it's only the end of lap 1. So that's a massive gap. So he should be able to manage that from here to the end. So up against the Evo. The Evo's a really good handling car, really good on grip. Now it's through the chicane here, as I said, this is where that the curb really messes you up. So there's really two alternatives here. You can run your sort of inside wheels over that curb, well, not directly over it, but beyond it, and you can save a couple of attempts. But the risk is that it really unsettles the car, and if you do hit the red curb, then that really unsettles the car. In some cases, it might even flip your car over. That's how vicious they are. So you've got this dilemma: do you want to go for the risk, which has high reward, or do you just want to play it safe? So I think playing it safe might be the safer option. Well, obviously it is. Playing it safe is the safe option. Well, yeah. But that might be the more consistent thing to do, and on the whole might give you actually a better race because you're more likely to kind of keep it on the tarmac and not spin off, which I kept doing. So here the Evo's had a really good lap here. You see, he's opened up that gap to over a second, and now actually I'm coming under attack more from the Megane behind. Actually, looking behind now, the Megane clearly having a bad infield section here at Dragon Trail Gardens. So I'm going to open up that gap to him, which is good news. So now I can kind of focus on trying to catch up with the guy ahead. Let's see if we can do that. So 3 laps left to go, 5-lap race. So it's daily race B. Over the line we go. And setting our own best lap, well, should be, because it's only lap 2. First lap's always going to be the slowest one, or presumably, because you've got the slower rolling start. So taking turn 1 nicely, braking on the 100 board there on the right hand side, hooked up with the first apex. Second apex, what line are we going to take? We're going to risk it, running 2 wheels over the red stuff, and then taking the safe line through the third apex. And I think we've definitely gained there actually. So looking down this back straight, spotting our braking point on the right hand side before the 100 board, before the curve begins. So it's hard to judge exactly how much before that we've braked, but just a little bit before. A little bit deep into the apex, but I think we've gained on the whole against the Mitsubishi Lancer ahead. Now through the infield section, this is very easy to get wrong. So through here, we want to kind of really tuck it into a late apex, go to the right hand side and throw it in. This corner is really a lot more open than you think. You can carry a lot more speed through that, and you can actually run quite wide on the exit, but almost beyond the curb. So through the quadruple apex right-hander, and I've definitely gained this time around. Definitely closer now than I was a lap ago. the Lancer running beyond the white lines on the third apex, which is not a quick line. Braking on the end of that curb just before the 100 board, hooking it in to the first apex, running wide and then cutting back for a second apex. Later on, the leader's actually got a penalty there, so he's got something wrong, although the gap's so big he'd probably be able to serve that just fine, unless it's a 20-second penalty. I don't think it'll be that quite that big though. So the bottle job hasn't happened yet, and in fact I'm actually doing a good job here to catch up and put the pressure onto second. So the pressure should be really on the Spaniard here to not make the mistake, because on lap 3 I've definitely caught him up, taking the cutting line through the second apex, taking the safe line through the third apex, but we've definitely gained on the whole. The Megane there probably had a good lap as well, so he's stayed about the same distance behind. Purple sector through turn 1, or sorry, through sector 1. Mitsubishi definitely knows I'm there. He went defensive there into the hairpin, which means he's going to get a poor run out. You see him struggling for traction on the way out of the turn. So onto the infield. This is where he should be strong. The Evo, as I say, one of the better handling cars in Group 4. Definitely got good grip on the whole. So he should be able to, should presumably drive away from me slightly. We'll see if that happens through this quadruple right. This is where I expect him just to edge out that gap slightly. The Viper's still though a good car, and I think he has gained maybe a tenth there. I'm going to tuck into that slipstream as much as possible. We know just how strong that slipstream is in Gran Turismo Sport. It really does give you a crucial advantage. Almost sometimes it's better to be behind, especially in a fuel saving race where you can just really get sucked along for free. So then onto the main straight. One more lap left to go. I've caught up. We definitely have a shot here of second place. First place has actually slowed down slightly, so I don't think there probably won't be a shot at first, because I don't think the penalty probably won't be big enough. Through turn 1, winding round then into the chicane here. You're going to go defensive. I'm going to go really late on the brakes. I'm going to look around the outside, and well, I don't know if that move was quite on there. It would have been difficult. And actually that's put me out of position going for that move there. Perhaps should have just stayed behind him and then gone for the move into the hairpin instead. In fact, now he's got a big gap, and I'm gonna have to go defensive now against the Renault Megane, who was caught up as a result of all this defending and fighting. So again, the Spaniard going narrow into the hairpin. Yeah, I don't think he actually had to do it there. Perhaps he's not quite confident on the brakes, but I've definitely caught back up to the back of him. So we now have a three-way fight for second, with only half a lap left to go here at Dragon Trail Gardens in Croatia. The circuit is in. So down the dip, into the quad right, hooking up with the first apex. Are we going to get a second? No, not quite. But it's the third and the fourth one you want to get a lot closer to. So the Evo running slightly wide, but he does come back eventually to meet the fourth apex. Tucking into that slipstream. I think our overtaking opportunities are now limited. I'm way too far back to go for a dive bomb here into the final corner. The Megane behind again, equally quite far behind. He goes very defensive. I think this guy's very nervous. I'm looking up the inside. Perhaps not the right decision. Perhaps could have gone deep and then cut back on the second apex instead. We're going to have a drag race to the line. It's not going to be enough though. So Spaniard, quite nervy in defence, but he's done enough to keep his second. I think on the whole it was a good race. So quite pleased with that one. Moved up 2 positions, didn't bottle it, and well, finished on the podium. So always pleased to move forwards. Always pleased to finish on the podium. So we're going to go again. This one is just be a quick recap of this race. I'm going to go for the Porsche Cayman, which seems to be the sort of the de facto handling car now in Group 4. Seems to be the car to go for. So through turn 1, clipping there that's nicely. Up behind a Corvette. So Corvette here done well to finish. Sorry, to qualify in second. The Corvette not quite as good on the brakes, but definitely has the power advantage. So there are a fair few long straights here at Dragon Trail. So you've got one here into the hairpin, and the one into the final hairpin, and one, of course, the main straight as well. So a little bit later in the lap, Corvette, this is where it's going to struggle through the handling corners, through this infield section. You see just running slightly wide through the quad right. I'm going to just nip up the inside up into second. So I'm now behind the fellow Cayman. Corvette looking at the inside. I don't think he's quite going to be able to do it because the brakes aren't quite as good on that car. It'll be a very brave move to go for it. hit a bit of contact mid-apex, but not too much to worry about. So safely now up to second. I'm behind the leader by the hairpin on lap 3. Turns in a little bit early, I'm going to get a better exit. So the pressure's on here. I can definitely go for this move. But coming into the final hairpin, just don't turn in early enough. You kind of got a trail brake and you kind of got ahead for that first apex very early. I get this guy on the inside of me, the Corvette's coming back for the move, and I just get a bit of a slide on. It doesn't quite work out. So the Corvette actually going back. So I went from being right behind the leader, putting pressure on him, to now being down in third, about a second and a half off the lead. So obviously not a good couple of corners there for me. So coming through here, I'm going to try to nail the chicane, taking the safer option here on the second apex, actually cutting the third one. That's the faster line through that final chicane, or the final apex of that chicane. And at the end of the race, it kind of died down there. It was a close race. You can see just how close the gaps are, not too big, but I didn't quite do enough. So finishing where I started, so I can't complain too much about that, although I think there was a possibility that we could have won that race. So it's always a bit disappointing when you could have won. But we go again. Now this was a really good race. We're going to have a look at this. So once again, the Cayman behind the Corvette, but this time it's a Renault Megane in the first place. So 3 different cars occupying the top 3 spots on the grid. So quite an interesting proposition here. See how this one develops. So then through turn 1 into turn 2, braking on 100 board, in we go. Just going to try to play it safe here, I think. Corvette taking the cutting line, which is faster. You see that's what happens. Sometimes the car bottoms out on that curb, and you get a big unsettling moment as you kind of drift through the apex. So often faster, good for qualifying. Megane goes defensive into the hairpin, and Megane is actually going to go very deep as a result. I'm going to cut back on both of them. It's going to almost be 3 abreast coming up here. Not quite though, 2 abreast between the Corvette and the Megane. How is that going to develop? The Corvette has the inside for this left, and he is just about going to slot in ahead. Now through this right, the Megane and myself, we're going to kind of meet in the middle, and I'm up into second. Strong move. We kind of move towards each other in the middle of the circuit, so a bit of a disagreement. But I wanted to move to the right as you normally would before a left-hand corner, move to the right-hand side of the circuit to take a better line. He was, I think, wanting to defend the position, but I was already alongside. Anyway, I'm up into second, so the Renault Megane not having a good first lap at all, dropping down 2 positions from first to third. Deep on the brakes is kind of what I mean. You need to trail brake really deep into that corner, cut back to that second apex. And Megane, you might have just spotted there, went deep, just poked his nose into the into the bottom of the screen momentarily, but that opens up the gap to him. So over a second now from myself to third. So we're not going to have to worry about him just for the moment. We'll try to tuck into the slipstream of the Corvette. So as I mentioned, the slipstream is very powerful. So even if I've got the handling car and I have a deficiency on the straights, as long as I just tuck into that slipstream, I'm just getting pulled along for free. So I'm not really losing out on the straights at the moment, but I do have the better straight line speed. The better handling. So I'm not really losing out on the whole at the moment. So as long as I can stay within this range here, maybe within 6 or 7 tenths of the car ahead, then it's okay. And then I can kind of get pulled along for free on the straights. So you do need to kind of stay within that range. Make sure you don't make too many mistakes. Sometimes it's better to kind of hang back, stay behind, and just pick your opportunity to go for that move into the lead, or whichever position it might be. So the Corvette historically quite bad through here. We've seen that in the previous race, but this time he gets hooked up quite nicely, not making the same mistake as he did before. So good to see that he's learning. And is he going to go defensive? He is slightly. I think he's definitely wary of my position. I'm going to position myself slightly inside of him just to kind of put him off, just to make him think about my presence. He doesn't make a mistake, so fair play to him. Coming out of the final corner, up the main straight. You see the Corvette just opening up a slight gap there, so even though I'm in the slipstream, the Cayman isn't quite powerful enough to overcome the Corvette. The Corvette definitely the superior car in a straight line. He's just going to struggle through that infield section where you've got the tight winding corners. So through here, opting to take the safer line, he takes the riskier line. It kind of pays off for him as he opens up a couple of car lengths on the exit onto this back straight. So he's going to be safe now into the hairpin despite the poorer braking performance of the Corvette. So deep on the brakes, I kind of learnt to kind of keep it out wide really late and then turn in. You get a lot better traction on the way out. Kind of get a straighter line once you've passed the apex. You can get on the power a lot early if you do that. So it's very tempting actually on that hairpin to turn in too early and get towards the apex. But I think if you can just hold it in, turn in a little bit later, and you're actually golden. You know, you can actually get that better traction on the way out. So again, lap number 3 through the quad right, so very close indeed. So you can see just how much better this Porsche is through there. I'm going to tuck right into his slipstream, right as close as I could be. I'm going to keep it to the left hand side for as long as possible, then move to the right as late as I can and move, sweep by, great move up into the lead. So my main tactic there really was stay behind him as long as possible to make him really think about me and not the braking point. Anything to distract him from the braking where he's meant to be braking. So stay right behind him as long as possible, then move over to the racing line at the last second to take a normal braking marker and you're on a normal racing line. And he kind of just distracted him slightly from his job at hand, which was to brake on time, and he just braked a little bit too late. I think, well, he possibly did brake on time if he was on the racing line, but if you're on the inside you do need to brake a little bit earlier because you're taking a tighter line. See there, through that chicane he takes a really good line. I'm playing the safe game, he's obviously taking a riskier game, but it's kind of paying off for him. He's obviously making it work. I'm going to go defensive into the hairpin, go a little bit deep, not too bad. He's going to get a slight cut back on me, not enough though to propose a move into the infield. So staying up in first on the 4th lap. So with about a lap and a third left to go, or a lap and a half left to go. Good position to be in, obviously in the lead, but the Corvette definitely going to be strong. I need to really make the most of this corner here to really get away, because following this corner I've got 2 long straights and the Corvette is better in a straight. And he's going to have the slipstream as well, so I really need to get away there, open up that gap, which I have done, over 7/10 of a second, so he probably isn't actually within the slipstream range now, so he's not going to get free slipstream, which is good, and he shouldn't be able to pass me into turn 1. So just opening up that gap at the crucial moment, and he's not going to be able to get within range to go for a pass into turn 1. So that's the main objective here, I suppose, as we enter the final lap. Just really get away before any of the long straights. So I think the best opportunity he has is probably at the bottom of the hill at the hairpin. So I do need to have a good run through this chicane here. Let's see if we can do that. The gap's 7/10 as we go in. Let's see what develops to. I'm going to take the safe line, just clipping the apex, just grazing the curb on either side and getting through there okay. He's going to have to risk it. And I think he has done. He's definitely gained maybe about a 10th. It's not going to be enough though to go for a move down into the hairpin. I've got the fastest lap at the moment, setting a purple sector there. A little bit late on the brakes, so that is perhaps a slight bottle, a hint of a mistake, which could have cost me if he was a lot closer. The gap now down to 3/10, so he's definitely reeling me in. I need to have a good infield here. This should play to the strengths of the car, and I need to kind of repeat what I did on lap 4, the previous lap, to kind of open up that gap before the long straights at the end of this lap. So here we go then. This is the crucial corner on this whole race. If I'm going to win this race, I need to get this one right. So clipping the apexes nicely, we've powered out very well. Just having a brief look behind halfway through, and the gap has opened up. It's not quite as big as I'd like. It's only 4/10. He is there, definitely within the slipstream range. He isn't going to be close enough to go for a move into the final corner. So going, taking a fairly narrow line in defence, and actually that's going to kind of set me up for a slightly worse exit. So he's going to definitely tuck into that slipstream. So if this was one more lap left to go, he might have been able to get past into turn 1 there, but I've done just enough to take the race victory. So really pleasing victory there, and it was a really good battle. I think on the whole the Cayman is the better car, but I just about made it work. Just about had to do what I had to do in that race. So on the whole, quite pleased with the result, and in the end, not so much just the result, just to have a race where I didn't absolutely bottle it and make a stupid mistake. So that one, yeah, really pleased with that result. And I do hope you enjoyed the video as always, guys. Thank you so much for the support. We're very, very close to 100k, which is absolutely incredible. We're going to get there very soon. So thank you again for all of your support, for watching the videos, for subscribing, for liking, for whatever, for commenting. So thank you very much as always. I shall see you in the next one. Goodbye.
Listen.